What is going on, NPA fans? My name is Dubious and welcome back to the Heat Pack for week number 3 of the 4th NPA season. I want to quickly thank all you guys for your support on last week's video. We covered weeks 1 and 2, so make sure you go check that out if you haven't already seen it. It was very fun to make and I'm glad that you all enjoyed it. And we've got some more Heat coming at you for this week. This past week of the NPA is over, so be sure to check out the battles. If you don't want to be spoiled on any of the results, make sure you go check those out. We've got some really cool sets to show you guys today, so without any further ado, let's just get right into it. So the first set we're going to look at today is this really cool trapping set brought by Lindemar and his Straw Hat Swamperts. Actually, this is one of 2 trapping sets brought by Lindemar this week. We're showing off this Gliscor set because the goal of it was to eliminate the Cast Form's Unaware Quagsire through a combination of Sand Tomb and Toxic. This would eventually allow the Malamar to start boosting up with very little consequence. It was an ingenious set brought by Lindemar, ended up contributing to a win for the Swamperts, and that has this Gliscor set sitting in this week's Heat Pack. Next up, we have this Laurentiis set brought by Old Man Tup, coach of the Pittsburgh Piratas. While this set isn't too far outside of a standard Laurentiis set, it has to be mentioned because of the incredible work it put in early game versus Galactic Elliot and his Chicago Cup Chews. Coming in on the Mega Garchomp, Laurentiis is able to boost up and apply a lot of pressure to Elliot's team, eventually taking out the Mega Garchomp as well as the Milotic, forcing Elliot to have to play the rest of the game without 2 key pieces of his team because of the pressure it applied, and eventually taking out 2 of Elliot's top threats. We had to include Laurentiis on the list this week. Coming up next, we have a strong performance from Mamoswine of the Durham Dreadagons, coached by Leo, aka 6-Foot Hacks. Down 6-4 at one point in this game, Leo maneuvered himself into a position to win with his Choice Scarf Mamoswine. That's exactly what happens as Mamoswine is able to dodge a crucial Fire Blast in the final turns of the game and proceed to pick up 3 kills to end the game and give the Dreadagons the win. We have another strong performance here in Exploud, brought by John, aka Pokemon and the New Orleans Pelipers. John recognized in his prep that Exploud did a huge amount of damage to just about everything on Crimson Seabad's Detroit type Knolls, and he wasted no time starting off the game by getting a kill on the Uxie and then bringing it in at key points throughout the match to fire off Choice Specs Boom Bursts. You may also notice that this set is packing 3 fire moves. Yes, that is to deal with Crimson Celesteela. John recognized that Celesteela is a gigantic threat, and he wanted to provide himself with perfect coverage for it, even if it seemed a bit like overkill. Great job by John noticing that Exploud put in the work this week. This set did end up paying off, and that's why it's in this week's episode of the Heat Pack. Next up is this great Alolan Persian set brought by Kelly, aka Under the Radar, and his Maryland Torterrapins. Kelly acknowledged that he didn't want to deal with sticky webs at all in this game, so he came up with a creative set in order to tackle the Galvantula early game. Fake Out to break the Focus Sash, Hidden Power Fire to secure the knockout on Galvantula before it could have the chance to set up sticky webs. Some great prep, the kind we do expect to see from a player as experienced as Kelly, and certainly deserving of a spot on this week's list. Once again, we find ourselves looking at a set brought by the Choice Specs and his Orlando Magikarps. Last week, Specs was on the list twice, and he has yet another great set this week. Normally seen as a physical attacker, Specs brings a Scarfed Special-based Entei with Eruption, allowing him to take full advantage of the Drought Ninetales he also brought this week. Unfortunately, this set didn't get to do a ton of work. It did grab a kill on the opposing Latios, but it was walled by an opposing Scarf Infernape, which did cut its performance short. However, it's the creativity and the intent behind it that puts it on the list this week. As we close in on the end of this week's video, we turn our focus back to the Chicago Cup Chews. This week, Elliot was forced into a tight spot against Tup and the Pittsburgh Piratas, at one point being down to just 2 Mons, looking like he might lose the game. Elliot instead decides to go for game in a last ditch effort, revealing the Rock Polish Donphan in one turn and the Z move the next to force Tup onto the back foot. Donphan ended up picking up 3 kills along the way before eventually going down. This opened the door for Elliot to get back into the game, and that's why we had to include this Heat set in this week's Heat Pack. Finally, we have the famous Stored Power Necrozma set brought by Kyle, aka Sleeping Knight 77, coach of the Montreal 2 Canadiens. While this set isn't too Heat by itself, the reason we mention it this week is because Kyle identifies that Jodor doesn't have a Dark type on his draft at all. This allows him to bring the Stored Power Necrozma set. When the game gets going, Kyle finds himself down to just 2 Mons towards the end of the game, but Necrozma is able to get set up against a Mega Medicham of all things and successfully counter sweep the the Seattle Sea Kings. It's that kind of performance that puts the Kozma at the top of the NPA Heat Pack for this week. Well guys, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the NPA Heat Pack. If you enjoyed seeing all these Heat sets from week number 3, be sure to leave a like on the video. And like always, if you think there was a set that should have been mentioned here that I missed, or if you got any thoughts at all on the series, leave a comment down below to let me know. As well, make sure you subscribe to the NPA channel for all kinds of analyst material as we continue to move on through the season of the NPA. Until next week, this is Dubious signing off, and I'll see you next time.